I will call the roll, Councilman. Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson as chair.
Present.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Present.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, present.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas. Absent. And Councilmember John Lee.
Present.
We have 4 members, Councilmember.
Excellent. I want to welcome everybody to the regularly scheduled meeting of Los Angeles City Council's Planning and Land Use Management Committee. It's February 16, 2021. We're joined by the CLA's office in the person of Mr. Roberto Mejia and by the City Attorney's office in the person of Adrian Curasani and others. Mr. Mejia, can you begin our meeting by reading the public comment rules and process as we prepare to for that part of the meeting?
Certainly, Mr. Harris Dawson. These are the rules and processes. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 161-644-6631 and then press number sign. Press number sign again when prompted for participant ID. Once admitted into the meeting, press *9 to request to speak. During public comment, city staff will call on members of the public by the last 4 digits of their phone number. By pressing *9, callers raise their virtual hand. Once the caller hears the last 4 digits of their phone number, they will need to press *6 to unmute themselves and should be ready to speak. Once the caller is ready to speak, they must state their name and the item or items they are calling to speak on. Failure to do so will result in the call being muted and subsequently disconnected. Appellants and or their representatives and applicants and or their representatives will be allowed to speak for a total of 3 minutes per side unless otherwise noted by the chairman of this committee. Members of the public wishing to speak on one agenda item only shall have an opportunity to speak for 1 minute. Members of the public wishing to speak on more than one item shall state that and shall be allowed to speak for a total of 2 minutes. This concludes my remarks, Mr. Harris Dawson.
All right, so we'll begin public comment with folks who want to speak on multiple items and general public comment. Multiple items and general public comment at this time.
The attorney was supposed to speak, read the rules, and they were doing requested and seeing consent.
Caller with the number ending in 2335, please press *6 to unmute.
I'm sorry, caller and staff. I've been instructed that we have additional instructions by the city attorney's office regarding public comment. So I will defer to the city attorney for those at this time. My apologies.
Sure. Adrian Curasani, City Attorney's Office. Just a reminder, when speaking on agenda items, speakers must be on topic. The goal is to get through as many speakers as we can. Therefore, if you are not speaking on topic, or if we cannot tell whether you're speaking on an agenda item, you will get a brief warning from me. If you do not immediately clearly get on topic, or if you stray off topic again, the speakers will forfeit the rest of the time and we'll have to move on to the next speaker. And we will inform you when your time is up.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Curasani, for that. All right. We'll begin our meeting, Mr. Mejia. We have requests to continue item number 1, 2, 3, and 4, as well as number 16. So if you could read a synopsis of those items into the record and the desired date to continue those matters to, we can dispose of those before going to public comment.
Certainly. Item 1, committee members, this is the Director of Planning's weekly report. Item number 2 is an appeal, contains various appeals relative to various land use entitlements for the construction of a residential building that will include 102 dwelling units with 12 very low income units. The project is situated in CD 15. The request being to continue the matter to April 20th, 2021. Item number 3 contains 8 appeals, various land use entitlements being appealed, as well as conditions of approval. This is as it relates to the operation of 2 charter elementary schools located in CD1. The request therein is to continue the matter to April the 6th, 2021. Item 4 is a report from the Department of City Planning relative to various amendments as it relates to the land use fees, and the request being to continue the matter to March the 2nd, 2021. Item number 16, this is a project that contains 2 appeals as it relates to the approval of a vesting tract map. This is for a mixed-use project that will include 1,009 dwelling units, 68 work-live units, along with hotel uses, and the project situated in CD3.
All right, thank you for that. So we'll move continuously these items with one slight correction. Item number 3 will continue to March the 16th. So that's the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Cedillo.
Yes. So I appreciate that. Let me ask, obviously, the pleasure of the chair, but let me suggest that, as I indicated earlier, we think we're close to settlement with all the appeals. I would like to bring to you March 2nd a matter in which I think all the appeals will be addressed and resolved. And I only ask for that date only because as a school, the subject matter is a school, we are kind of tied into the winter break and summer break. And so there is a structural urgency in this matter. And I want to make sure I give due notice. But I do believe that we will have all the appeals wrapped up. I'm confident that if not, there may be one lingering to which that would not hold us up from moving forward. And so I ask for a deferral to March 2nd.
So my understanding, Mr. Cedillo, is that if everything is ready and your brilliant skills of negotiating and bringing people together are ready and everything's ready to go, we can do it on the 2nd. This allows us to do it on the 2nd, but if not, we don't have to go through the administrative work of applying for an additional and negotiating additional continuance. So we'll leave it at the 6th and make a note of your enthusiasm with regard to bringing people together on this matter. All right. So thank you, Mr. Cedillo. It's been moved in second. Any further discussion? All right. Mr. Mejia, can you call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson is chairman.
Yeah. Yes. Mr. Mejia, can you verify the date that we moved continue number 16 to before we go?
Yes. The date of continuance for item 16, Councilman, is March 16, 2021.
Got it. Okay, good. So my vote is yes.
Very good. Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas absent, and Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
That's 4 members, Mr. Chairman, and it carries.
All right. Then we have an item that we are, a couple items that the chair is recommending we adopt on consent. They are 5, 6, and 7. If you could read a short summary into the record, Mr. Mejia, and call for the roll if there's no discussion.
Yes. Item 5, committee members, This is a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission relative to the inclusion of the Pleasance House located in CD 13 as a historic cultural monument. The recommendation being to approve the inclusion. Item number 6, this is a zone and height district change for the construction of a mixed-use project that will include 22 units for extremely low income and 26 low income units. And the project is located in CD6. The recommendation, should that be the will of the committee, to approve it on consent, the zone change. And item 7, this is a motion by Council Member Cedillo O'Farrell. It's instructing city planning along in consultation with city attorney to prepare an ordinance to create a supplemental use district in the Mount Washington specific plan area for hillside construction. The recommendation is to adopt the motion, should that be the will of the committee.
Excellent. Thank you for that. So I'll move those items and ask for a second, but I see Mr. Cedillo's hand up. Again, I don't know if it's from the previous item. It looks like it might be.
Second.
All right. You still have your hand up, Mr. Cedillo. I thought you might be getting ready to take back the Cedillo O'Farrell motion. I was going to be crestfallen. So it's been moved and seconded. Can you call the roll, Mr. Mejia?
Yes, Council Member Harris Dawson as chair.
Yes.
Council Member Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Council Member Bob Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Council Member Mark Ridley Thomas is absent, and Council Member John Lee.
Aye.
That's 4 members, and it carries, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much. Now we'll go to public comment. This will be for multiple items and folks who want to speak in general public comment. I'll make a note to staff per the advice of the city attorney. When Mr. Wayne Spindler of Encino, California, comes on the line, he is to be allotted double time. Again, Mr. Wayne Spindler of Encino, California, will be given double time. And we'll open up the line for callers on multiple items in general public comment at this time.
And Council Member, if I can just clarify, thank you for reminding everyone of that. That is double time on general public comment only.
Got it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Caller with the number ending in 2335, can you please press *6 to unmute and then state your name and the items you wish to speak on?
Good afternoon. I'd like to speak on item number 7.
Sure, you have 1 minute.
At this time?
Yes.
Oh, okay. My name is Barbara Fisher. I'm a longtime property owner and resident of Mount Washington. My husband and I were drawn to Mount Washington by its beautiful park-like feel with multitudes of trees and plants. However, many of us live in fear of a devastating fire up here because of that very same reason. We have currently limited street access and extremely narrow roads, which often causes dangerous congestion. Including Mount Washington in the hillside construction regulations would be an important step towards keeping our roads clear for emergency vehicles and helping reduce the chance of a potential devastating fire. Thank you for your time.
Caller with the number ending in 8333, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the items you wish to speak on?
Hi, can you hear me? It's hard to tell.
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. My name's Maureen Levinson. I'd like to talk on item number 10. I'm with the Bel Air Beverly Crest Neighborhood Council Ad Hoc Committee on Home Sharing and Party House Ordinances. Regarding item number 10, there is no real enforcement without more short-term rental platform agreements. because bad actors simply move to other platform sites. These other platform sites are not monitored by the automated compliance interface system as Airbnb uses. Another issue is the primary residence proof system that allows for mischief. We have a lot of fraud in our hillside neighborhoods, primarily by the self-certification system of the city. And in our neighborhood, developers with properties on the market that are not selling hire property managers who pose as renters. These developers submit letters with their applications stating approval for hired renters to do their short-term rentals with the property. Most of these properties end up as habitual event facilities for large gatherings and parties. Through our committee's research efforts, we know of platform sites with literally hundreds of illegal listings. We urge you to support the motion. Hello?
Caller with the number ending in 1470, can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the items you wish to speak on?
Yes, good afternoon. My name is Maria Patiño and Gutierrez, and I want to speak on item number 9 and item 11.
You have 2 minutes.
Okay, so I'm with a nonprofit Cpc Action for a Just Economy, and we're also members of the Alliance for Community Transit, ACT-LA. And in terms of item number 9, we believe that this could be an opportunity. However, as it's currently written, it doesn't get at the deeper levels of affordability needed in our communities. We do believe that as it's written, it could be a threat. So we recommend to include more information on right of return, and we want to work with the council member's office to make this a better policy. For item number 11, the one-to-one replacement, we support this motion and think it should be expanded to cover not just RSO, but also affordable housing units and units that are occupied by lower-income households. This is consistent with all other replacement requirements and other programs like the density bonus, TOC, and SB 330. And we think no net loss is important, but not enough by itself. We also need additional tenant protections and standards that prevent the displacement of residents of RSO units. Thank you so much.
Caller with the number ending in 6999, can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the items you wish to speak on?
My name is Nancy Hanna. I work with Better Neighbors LA, and I'd like to comment in support of item 10 that calls for assessing enforcement of the home sharing ordinance.
Thank you. You have 1 minute.
Better Neighbors LA monitors short-term rentals in Los Angeles, and time again we have callers complaining that their calls to planning go unanswered, and nearby short-term rentals continue to operate in blatant violation of the home sharing ordinance. Through our CPRA request to planning, we have learned that in the first 10 months of 2020, they received approximately 4,000 complaints through their hotline. However, planning conducts no field investigations, and they have told us they have no staff assigned to respond to hotline complaints. We've been working with one neighborhood in Silver Lake that has reported a nearby party house since October of 2020, and it continues to operate even after this family has reported that these short-term rental operators have threatened them if they continue to report their illegal short-term rental. Better Neighbors LA would like to see planning assign sufficient staff to investigate reported violations of the home sharing ordinance, and in order to follow up sufficiently on those investigations to ensure compliance is actually reached. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 2283, can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the items you wish to speak on?
Hi, this is Harris Rosenblum. I'd like to speak on item 9 in general comment.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. On behalf of the Los Angeles Business Council, we would like to express our support for item 9, Councilmember Corretz's motion to expand the adaptive reuse ordinance citywide. 2019 McKinsey Global Institute report found that meeting our region's 2021 to 2029 RENA housing target of 819,000 units, including 457,000 affordable units, would require upwards of $139 billion over the 8-year period. However, this amount of public subsidy can be greatly reduced by incentivizing market-driven development with set-asides for more affordable units. This motion would help to do so by making available commercially zoned land to develop moderate-income housing by right across the city. And now, as the COVID-19 induced pandemic and related job losses has only exacerbated our housing crisis, staying housed remains out of reach for far too many people, we need to utilize all possible avenues for opening up more sites and opportunities to meet our housing goals. Los Angeles needs to retool the process for creating housing in a more efficient and cost-effective manner, and this motion looks to do so by incentivizing infill, moderate-income housing development in an expedited manner. For this reason, we strongly support this motion and are excited about continuing to work together towards addressing the critical need to provide housing opportunities for all Angelinos. Thank you very much. I yield the rest of my time.
You want me to ask her something?
Caller with the number ending in 8882, can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself? And then state your name and the items you wish to speak on.
Hi, yes. My name is Caitlin Scanlon, and I'm speaking on item 4. I understand it's continued, but if I understand correctly, the public is able to comment on continued items.
No, ma'am, that's incorrect. You can't speak on an item that's been continued.
Adrian Corsani, City Attorney's Office, to clarify, if a speaker is wanting to speak on the issue of the continuance, they may comment, but not on the substance of it since the matter is continued.
I am speaking on the continuance itself.
Okay.
I would actually ask that the item be continued even further to allow time for local neighborhood councils to act and prepare community impact statements in response to this planned fee hike, which foists the financial burden upon the average citizen filing these appeals, which is often the last means of recourse for stakeholders in vulnerable communities. While NCs play a vital role in keeping the public informed, there's a lot of room for improvement. The appeals process is an essential facet of public engagement in the planning process, and keeping those fees accessible allows stakeholders to use procedure in place to speak up when all else fails. Furthermore, I'm deeply disappointed with how this item is presented on the agenda itself. The summary is misleading at best. What reasonable average person could glean from this description that the appellant fees would be doubled? I sure as hell couldn't, and I would expect that summaries be more clearly and accurately reflect the substance and outcomes of these motions. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 0191, can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself? And then state your name and the items you're speaking on. We can't, caller, we can't hear you.
This is Kay Church. I'm speaking on item 15.
Ma'am, I think right now we're only taking callers who are speaking on general public comment or multiple comment.
Okay.
So when we get to item 15, just raise your hand again and we'll call on you.
Okay.
Caller with the number ending in 7024, can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the items you wish to speak on?
I'd like to speak on behalf of item number 15. I'm going to raise my hand again. I just heard you.
So which items did you state that you want to comment on?
Item number 15.
15, okay, so when we get to that item, you can speak right now. We're only hearing general public comment and multiple comment.
Okay, thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 6475. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
Hi, my name is Mohammed Abbas, and I'm calling to speak on item 9, 11, and general public comment.
Okay, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, my name is Mohammed Abbas. I'm with Inner City Law Center, and with we are a member of ACT LA. We're here to talk about item number 9, the adaptive reuse ordinance. We believe that this could be an opportunity. However, it does not address direct displacement, and we're concerned that it only sort of affects the moderate levels of affordability, and we really would like this to address the lower levels of affordability as well for folks at the very low income and extremely low income levels. As it's written, we really just really concerned about the part that it doesn't address those, and if it's not changed, we feel like it could lead to greater gentrification and displacement. We want to work to make this a better policy. In regards to item 11, we support this motion, and we think it should also be expanded to not only cover RSO, but also covenant affordable housing units and units occupied by lower income households. This is really consistent with the TOC, density bonus, SB 330, and so we want to achieve a consistency across all these programs. No loss is very important. But on its own, it's not going to affect displacement entirely. We also need additional tenant protections to prevent the displacement of folks in rent-controlled units. With that, I will yield the rest of my time. Thank you very much.
Caller with a number ending in 3588. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the items you're speaking on?
Hi there, my name is Carolyn Woody, and I'd like to speak to item number 12.
So right now we're only doing general public comment and multiple items. So when we get to item 12, just raise your hand and we'll call on you.
Okay, thanks.
Caller with the number ending in 1984, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the items you wish to speak on?
Good afternoon, Heather Rosa, and I'd like to speak on item number 10.
So right now we're not doing single item comment. We're only doing general public comment and multiple comment. So when we get to item 10, just raise your hand again and we'll call on you.
Great, thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 1741. 1741. Can you please press *6 to unmute? One 1741. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? Caller with the number ending in 1474. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Michael Schultzman with Central City Association. I'd like to speak on items 9 and 12, please.
Sure, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Regarding item number 9, CCA has been a champion for downtown's ARO since the 90s, which has been a key to downtown's transformation by resulting in over 12,000 new housing units since 1999, about a third of all housing created downtown over that time. We're very supportive of the intent of this motion to expand adaptive reuse provisions citywide and include buildings constructed as recently as 5 years ago. However, we recommend further analysis of the proposed restrictions on housing affordability, as well as excluding certain housing types and hotels, which could greatly limit the viability and impact of the program. Adaptive reuse projects are very expensive, often equal to or more than that of new ground-up construction, so understanding feasibility is key. Additionally, we recommend against requiring retail on ground floors and instead requiring active uses, which provides much more flexibility while achieving urban design and public realm best practices. Lastly, we also hope to see updates to downtown's ARO and the other existing adaptive reuse incentive areas included in this effort. And on item 12, we're also supportive of the objective of this ordinance, but we request that the 5,000 square foot cutoff be removed and instead consider more nuanced criteria to account for small businesses, and that parking requirements not be triggered for new outdoor dining space as well. There are many small businesses, particularly restaurants, that have been badly impacted by COVID that occupy spaces larger than 5,000 square feet. And we also want to ensure tenants on the ground floor of large mixed-use buildings can benefit from this relief measure and are not left out. Businesses need maximum flexibility right now, and we believe this will help businesses and property owners survive and recover from the economic impacts of the pandemic. Automatically extending CUPs and suspending certain parking requirements to make the change of use process easier and lower costs are positive steps the city can and should take to provide relief. We encourage you to lift the 5,000 square foot cutoff and ensure that outdoor dining is excluded from parking requirements, which will enable all of the city's small businesses to utilize these emergency provisions. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 2854, can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
My name is Jay. I'd like to speak to the project in the Pacific Palisades on Sunset Boulevard. I don't have an agenda. Could you tell me what agenda item that is?
Sir, right now we're only doing general public comment and multiple comment. So when we get to that item, just raise your hand and we'll call on your name, or your number, rather.
So you can't tell me what number it is?
Just a moment. That item is number 15, so when we get to item 15, we'll call on your number. Caller with the number ending in 9803, can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself? (9803), can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, my name's, sorry, I pushed the wrong button. My name's Lauren Mckee, and I'm calling to speak in support of item number 11. So to raise my hand again, I would press pound 9, star 9 again.
You said you want to speak on item 11?
Correct. So just to clarify, by raise my hand again, do you mean push star 9 again when that item is called?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 4099. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
Hi, my name is Brittany. I was calling about item 11, but I understand I can't speak at this moment.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Caller with the number ending in 1157. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Noel Gould, and I'd like to speak regarding the continuance of item number 4.
Sure, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. I'm Noel Gould. I've served for almost 4 years on the Coastal San Pedro Neighborhood Council. I chair the Coastline and Parks Committee and the Sunken City Ad Hoc Committee, and I'm a member of the Planning, Land Use, and Transportation Committee, the Environment and Sustainability Committee, the Administrative and Budget Committee. And I would like to echo everything that the other caller who spoke on item 4 said, and request that you please, please, please continue it further than the March 2nd date so that the neighborhood councils have an opportunity to hear this in their own committees and also file CISs regarding this, because it really, really has a huge negative impact on lower income communities. And it's vital that the neighborhood councils have an opportunity to weigh in on this. So please continue it farther than March 2nd. Please, please, please. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 2808. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Doug Dawson, and I'm speaking on item 7 on behalf of the Glassell Park Improvement Association.
So we aren't hearing number 7 right now because we're only doing general public comment and multiple items. So when we get to item 7, can you please press *9 to raise your hand?
I'm sorry, Barbara Fisher got to speak on number 7. Your first caller. Thus, it's already been voted on.
I don't think that's accurate, but when we get to item number 7, we will call on your number. Thank you. Caller with the number ending in 4418. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? 4418. And then state your name and the items you wish to speak on. Caller with the number ending in 0605, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the items you wish to speak on? Caller with the number ending in 7006, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the items you wish to speak on?
Yay! Oh, fuck it up! There's a general comment to retarded people! Shut up!
Okay, so.
Can you make a survey?
I need
is for effect, or if there's a problem with your technology. This sounds like Mr. Spindler of Encino.
I don't know who that is.
Corsani that he gets.
But I know I'm a nigger.
Yes.
Can I speak it out loud?
Adrian Corsani, City Attorney's Office. If the speaker doesn't identify himself as otherwise, we're going to presume this is.
And that racially charged language, Madam City Attorney, just won't work. Mr. Chair, I'd ask that you rule accordingly.
Yeah, we want to rule about that. Yes, that's important. We're in a court of law. So, Your Honor.
That N-word language is incendiary. Is hate speech, and nobody comes here to be a member of the city council to be subjected to that by you or anybody else.
What kind of speech?
Mr. Spindler, you need to remain on topic. So if you're here for certain items, please say what the items are or your general public comment. Thank you.
I'm trying to talk like Donald Trump. That's what he does. And everybody said he got free speech, so...
Mr. Spindler, this is your last warning to get on topic. Thank you.
But I was interrupted, ma'am. Can you restart my clock? I got confused on a mental level. Associate Justice Sunil, graduate of People's College with a JD. Can they start my time over? Because I was interrupted.
You're wasting your time. Your clock is continuing. Please conclude your comments.
How much time do I have? Because...
A minute left.
You sent me a legal memorandum that I get double time at this meeting if I called in, and I wouldn't be harassed. I have the email, Gil. And it's because you guys can't stop fucking up that this happens. So I asked to reset my clock because I was interrupted and harassed while trying to express my First Amendment privileges. Will you comply with my request, please, Madam City Attorney? That would be good.
Councilmember Harris Dawson, we've explained that the speaker has opportunity to speak. He's choosing to run the clock this way. I'm not sure how much time is left, but this is currently not on topic.
But I have one.
So you're off topic. We'll move to the next speaker. Thank you so much, Mr. Spindler of Encino. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 8765. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Not my doing.
Hi, just like the previous two callers, I'd like to, I know you've postponed item number 4, but I would like very much to point out that, and I echo their words, it's your description on item number 4 is quite misleading. It's actually unethical to actually have an agenda item that doesn't specifically state what the intended objective is. So if you plan on doubling the fees, it should say front and center that we plan on doubling these appeal fees. And I ask that you please, if you ever include items on the agenda, they be actually clear for everybody. So the purpose of this call is to ask you, please, whether you postpone the item or not in general, not to increase the cost of the appeal fees. These are punitive measures designed to exclude the public, and it increases the burden on all of us from being able to file appeals. It stifles our voice, and it stifles people from airing their grievances and trying to work with the city in order to fix things. So all citizens have a right to speak. All citizens have the right to be engaged with the city, and increasing these costs is an attempt to exclude us. And this is wrong. And I humbly ask that you not increase any of the fees associated with any appeals that happen within the city. Thank you very much.
Caller with a number ending in 1760. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the items you wish to speak on?
Hello, my name is Jamie Hall. I am here to give general public comment.
Sure, you have 1 minute.
Good afternoon. My name is Jamie Hall. I'm the president of the Laurel Canyon Land Trust. I'm here to offer our strong support for the 30 by 30 conservation initiative. It's a worldwide effort to preserve 30% of the world's remaining land and water. President Biden and Governor Newsom recently signed executive orders to support this extremely important initiative. There's a pending motion before the City Council to play a part in preserving the remaining land in Los Angeles. We support this wholeheartedly and ask you to move this forward to your committee for adoption. The second largest city in the United States has a moral obligation to participate in this effort. Thank you very much.
Caller with the number ending in 1741. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? 1741. Please press star 6 to unmute. Caller with the number ending in 9424. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the items you wish to speak on?
Good afternoon, Madam. My name is Gerard Wright, the Government Affairs Director with the Greater LA Realtors. I'm calling on behalf on items 4 and number 9. I know number 4 will be continued, but just a quick question and comment. If the clarification to add more to the report including some time figures on the amount of time it usually takes for plan checks to be developed, so that is a better window of understanding if the fees takes a lot longer than other cities, or we're expediting as fast as we can to deliver on the housing that the area so desperately needs. So that's my comment on number 4. On item number 9, I'm glad to see the inclusion of eliminating the linkage fees with respect to this item, because taxes and fees are a detriment to building more housing because of the high cost to build in the city of Los Angeles. We would like to see at least a continuation of this to other such things for projects like supportive housing, homeless housing, and other housing projects of all types, so we can really deliver on building more housing of all types and really make a dent in our housing supply crisis. Thank you so very much, and you have a great day.
Caller with the number ending in 2616. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself and then state your name and the items you wish to speak on?
Yes, it's Eric Previn, and I'd like to speak on 4 and other items. But I would like to also draw attention to the fact.
Which
you want to
item?
tell me how many?
Sure.
Yeah. Which ones? I want to save it as a surprise. But 9, 7, something in there,
Okay, great. You have 2 minutes.
and a general public comment as well. You're taking that. Now, here's the thing. Item number 4, as I brought to your attention last week, is upsetting because increasing the non-applicant fee by almost double is a real pinch on people's voice. And whereas I know that you're mostly a group of leaders who want to roll over the community voice and get what you want done, it is a very important part of the process. And that's why we were, unfortunately, because we don't like litigation, forced to bring the city into court for contempt, which is going to be happening soon because of the way you were denying people the opportunity to speak on continued items. And I'm happy to say today you have actually started to allow people to speak on the continued item. But there is I'll call this what it is, a nuttiness about your process to the point where it's inhibitory, because people call up and say they want to speak on now an individual item, and they're being pushed to the back in some way. Why can't you simply put the items on the table, take the comments from the people accordingly, with all of the leaders listening and available on a Zoom grid for review, because it's appalling how they talk during the meeting. We've had a member of the public document it. It's scary. But in any case, and then you could conduct a meeting with a reasonable degree of, without this endless torture of the clerk and CLA who are forced to go, well, does seem reasonable, and Fisher did speak first, and all these ridiculous, like a shell game to get through to give a coherent public comment. And speaking of coherent public comments, well done, sir, on gathering Don Hankey and the crowd. These are the subprime loan folks.
Madam Attorney, is he on a subject? Is there a point
yeah,
and
of course,
a subject?
Yeah, that's one of the developers, is Don Hankey's project. What's wrong with that?
Mr. Previn, can you remind us what number item you're speaking
Lancashire
to?
Lancashire LLC. Come on. These are your people. You can't pretend you don't know who Don Hankey is. Don Hankey is a billionaire because he gives loans to people that they then implode on, Mr. Ridley Thomas. You know he is. Remember, from the county? Remember with Jameson Group? Their partner. Come on, guys. Let's not kid a kidder. Let's just do this. Let's do this. Let's get the city attorney to agree that they have to fix this process so that all the people who come through can speak on the items that they want to, and give the general public comment, and not be pushed around by a set of rules that are never firmly or appropriately stated, because there shouldn't be any. People should be able to call in and tell you what they want to tell you, and you should sit there and listen with a degree of respect that only Mr. Cedillo has been able to provide when he's not at the dentist's office. Others are constantly chatting, but Cedillo is listening, and we know that, and we appreciate it, because he's the man who put together the civil rights group that's going to really do some, finally, we're going to get some action on that. And I just want to applaud the rest of the council.
Madam Attorney, I don't believe that's on the agenda.
That's your time. Thank you.
What about the general public?
You've exhausted your minutes.
All right, well, if we can talk off to the side, I will avoid taking you to court. But
Caller with the number ending in 4418. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself? (4418). Please press star 6 to unmute.
Hi, my name is Brandy DeMore. I'm calling from Hollywood United Neighborhood Council, and I wish to speak on items 4, 10, and on the ADU accessory program, ADU Accelerator program.
You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. I would like to address number 4 and repeat and echo many of the comments of the people before. We actually are one of the few neighborhood councils that probably got to create a community impact statement on item 4, and that was very difficult because we were under the impression that it was going to be heard. Now that it's being continued, so we had a limited amount of time. It will be a punitive process on felons to do this, as in our neighborhood, the people that appeal are of a lower income, per capita just under $36,000 a year, and to have these fees increase in this way will prevent significantly appeals, which is not their fault because the new expedited systems to allow developers to act is now taking revenue away from planning. That should not be then punished onto the people that need to appeal. As for number 10, we are experiencing a tremendous amount of lack of support and a lack of execution of fulfilling the promise of stopping short-term rental. As someone indicated earlier, the home share ordinance is not providing people to actually come out upon that receiving phone calls from the hotline to actually pursue. We now have an increasing illegal, unregulated, almost commercial Airbnb process that's happening, which also happens to overlap with party houses. So these listings that are listing as short-term rental are also being used as party houses. And so there does need to be something reassessed and reanalyzed about what things you need to do. Also, no one is really monitoring the internet for the multiple listings that are occurring. Airbnb may have been helpful, but other companies continue to pop up with listings. The last thing is that some sort of analysis and incentive needs to be done with the ADU Accelerator program that you created. On the surface, it's a great program. It would be providing housing for seniors that are low income with this subsidized type housing. But as it stands right now, there are 33 seniors on a wait list and no ADUs on that list. And I don't know if it's because planning has ceased its... thank you.
There's 2 private callers on the queue. If you know that you've called with a private number, can you please press star 6 to unmute?
Hello?
We can hear you.
I'd just like to give a general public comment.
Sure, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. My comment is simple. Los Angeles lies on stolen land. It'd be nice if the land use committee would do a land use acknowledgement before it starts its work. Not that it would make any difference for you grossly corrupt idiots. But stolen land will not rest until it's decommodified, and the work that you guys do in this committee is not going to make a difference in anything besides getting corrupt developers rich and then letting these ugly, terrible buildings sit in the city and go unused and underutilized for what they could be utilized. And I would just like to say it was cute that you guys were kind of discussing what you guys could do with Plum in council, but nobody is buying your bullshit. And the sooner that you guys do things like get criminals like John Lee off of this committee and out of your council, the sooner we can maybe take you guys seriously, but more just likely focus on voting you guys out as soon as we possibly can. So just fuck all of you. Thank you.
One more private caller in the queue. If you've raised your hand and you called in with a private number, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? Caller, I can see that you're unmuted. We can hear you. That exhausts our speakers.
All right. Thank you to everyone who's called in, and thank you, staff, for facilitating that process. Mr. Mejia, we can roll to considering the remaining items on our agenda, beginning with item number 8. If you could read that into the record.
Yes, Councilman. Item number 8 is a communication from the mayor relative to the appointment of Ms. Jenna Hornstock to the Los Angeles City Planning Commission.
All right. We have Ms. Hornstock is with us. I want to check to see if we have any callers on this item. You'll raise your hand by pressing *9. I'll give it a few seconds. If we have, do we have any callers on this item? All right. Hearing none, I want to.
One caller with a raised
hand. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, we have 2 callers. Caller with a private number who just raised their hand to speak on this item. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
All right, so it looks like we've exhausted our callers. Ms. Hornstock, if you could just take a second to say hello and tell us a little bit about yourself and your expectations of joining us in the serving capacity.
Great. Thank you guys so much. And I just want to start by saying I'm honored to be before you for this consideration. Just put a few quick thoughts together, some background on me. I was raised in Culver City, a little bit of Santa Monica, as my parents were divorced as a young kid, so I went back and forth. I attended Culver City public schools. I was privileged enough to be in a Spanish immersion program, for which I thank my mother every day because I am fluent in Spanish, at least enough to be pretty good in a lot of community meetings. My mom was a social worker for kids coming out of LA County's probation camps, and my dad was a producer for NBC and Fox of TV shows. So I consider myself having a producer's brain, but for the public good. I've spent 20 years in affordable housing and community and economic development, primarily as a public servant. I worked for the redevelopment agency for the city of Los Angeles and then for LA Metro for 8 years. And in these jobs, I've been a practitioner. I've purchased land, invested public funding in affordable housing. I've worked on open space plans, streetscape improvements. I've applied for grants, awarded grants, negotiated with developers, funded small business programs, and I even ran the city's new market tax credit program at one point. And I've done a lot of work around access to healthy food, and that's a particular area of passion for me. All of this work has been rooted in engagement with community and improved outcomes for lower income communities of color. I may not know many of you personally, but I have likely worked with your staff, your CLA and CIO's offices, your planning department and your housing departments for the years. So I'm definitely familiar with folks at the city. I've been a renter in Los Angeles. I'm now a homeowner, a landlord. I have an ADU. I'm also mother to a 14-year-old son. I'm a practitioner at heart, and I'm really pragmatic. And so I hope to bring that lens to this commission. And I really am, again, honored to bring, I think, a pragmatic and practitioner's view to the Planning Commission. And I wanted to add one other thought. I used to think that being pragmatic and really focused on implementing policy on the built environment meant that I was not an advocate or an activist, much in the way that I think many women would not call themselves a feminist because we associated that word with being too radical, right? So we wouldn't say that. But I I've changed my mind a bit. Because again, I think that I'm going to paraphrase Professor Ibram Kendi in his book. He says that being an anti-racist activist doesn't necessarily mean that I'm out there kind of, not that I haven't been to protests, but that's not what it's about. It's about using your power in whatever form we have to effectuate systemic change. And so when you ask why I'm pleased to serve, I am really pleased to bring a practitioner's lens, 20 years of work in this area, to your planning commission, and I will be an activist in that way that I know how, and I will do what I can to use whatever power you imbue to me to effectuate positive change. So again, I really appreciate your consideration.
Thank you so much, the people of Los Angeles. Thank you. I will open it up for comments from members of the committee. Seeing none, I'll move this. I'll move that we forward this on to council with a favorable recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Seconded by Mr. Blumenfeld. Can you call the roll, Mr. Mejia?
Yes, Councilmember Harris Dawson as chair.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Mr. Chair. It carries.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mejia. That takes us to item number 10 by Mr. Blumenfeld and Mr. Rue.
Very good. Item number 10, Mr. Chairman, is a motion, Blumenfield Rue. It's instructing the Planning Department, Building and Safety, and other city agencies with the Assistant City Attorney to report back on the progress of the implementation and enforcement efforts on the city's short-term rental ordinances.
All right, so now is the time to press star 9 if you want to raise your hand to speak on this item. But before we go to callers, we'll hear from a representative from Department of City Planning.
Good afternoon. It's Phyllis Nathanson from Planning Department, and the department is happy to work with the City Attorney, Building and Safety, and other relevant departments to prepare a report on the progress of implementing and enforcing the home sharing ordinance.
Excellent. Thank you. Do we have callers on this item?
We have 2 public comment callers.
All right.
Caller with the number ending in 1984, can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
Good afternoon. My name is Heather Roseman, and I am the Executive Director for the Hotel Association of Los Angeles. First, I'd like to thank Councilmember Blumenfeld for remaining diligent to ensure our city's new home sharing law is successfully enforced going forward. Currently, a simple search of short-term rental platforms yields high numbers of scofflaw single-family homes ready to be rented. This lack of enforcement is undermining the hotel ability to recover from the coronavirus pandemic and bring back our workers, many of whom have been out of work for months. Taking homes away from Los Angeles residents for short-term rental use continues to decrease available housing stock for our workers, while taking much-needed business away from hotels. Enforcing this law will help protect your hotel community and our workers, as we are one of your greatest assets in economic recovery and one of your biggest partners in protecting Los Angeles jobs in the wake of COVID. And lastly, please remember that homes are for families and hotels are for guests. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 0605, can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself? (0605), can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
All right. Sounds like that exhausts our callers.
It does.
Excellent. Thank you. So I will open this item up for discussion, beginning with Mr. Blumenfield.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think the item itself is pretty straightforward.
We spent a lot of time working on this ordinance, and it needs to be enforced properly. Fairly simple. We're instructing staff to look at if there's additional remedies that need to be taken. We're worried about there's a number of units that are out of compliance, and figuring out how we deal with that. And it's not the legislative side of it; it's the administrative side of it. But we need to get regular reports. So I know a lot of callers called in earlier during the multiple comment about it. We hear them. We hear the folks who share these concerns, and this motion is designed to get to that. That's it. So I urge your aye vote.
Excellent. Comments or questions from other members of the committee? All right. Seeing none, Mr. Blumenfield has moved. I'll second. Mr. Mejia, can you call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Harris Dawson is chair.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Mr. Chair, and it carries.
Excellent. Mr. Mejia, that takes us to item number 11.
Very good. Item 11, Mr. Chairman. This is a motion, Martinez Cedillo. It's instructing city planning to consult with city attorney and to report on the creation of a citywide one-to-one replacement ordinance for rent stabilization ordinance units, rent control units, and to report with an analysis of replacing the units on that site and having the developer pay into a fund and its impact on existing inclusionary housing programs.
Thank you, Mr. Mejia. So now is the time to press star 9 if you want to speak on item number 11. But before we go to public comment, we'll hear from a representative of the Department of City Planning.
Good afternoon, Arthi Varma with the Department of City Planning. The department is happy to begin work on this work program once the motion is adopted. We'll be coordinating with HCID on this item, and we have staff, Matt Glesney from our Housing Policy Unit, to answer any questions about the motion.
All right, with that, thank you. We'll go to public comment on this item. Are there any callers on the queue?
No callers have raised their hand to speak on this item.
Excellent. Is there discussion from members? Mr. Cedillo, you have a second on this.
Mr. Chairman, it's just comparable to stuff we're doing in practice. We actually have made similar type of agreements, and the goal is to address the housing crisis and to make sure that we're making net gain. My concerns have been raised abundantly with respect to covenants and RSOs that stand there, housing low-income persons in our city, making sure that we can protect that in a very realistic way so that we can continue to build, address the question of supply, but at the same time make sure that as we build supply that we are not ending up with net loss through this process. And so we have, as I said, negotiate some of these agreements in practice, and now it's an opportunity for us to take those negotiated agreements and turn them into a broader citywide policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cedillo. Do we have any comments or questions from other members of the committee?
Move the item, Mr. Chair.
All right, it's been moved by Mr. Ridley Thomas, seconded by the chair. Can you call the roll, Mr. Mejia?
Yes. Councilmember Harris Dawson is chairman.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
That's unanimous, Mr. Chair, and it carries.
Excellent. This takes us to item number 12. Item number 12, Mr. Mejia.
Yes, item number 12, Mr. Chairman, this is a proposed ordinance from the Planning Department to create a mechanism for the council and the mayor to enact temporary regulatory relief from certain limitations that are denoted in the zoning code as it relates to automobile parking during a declared local emergency.
And now is the time to press star 9 if you want to speak on item number 12. Before we go to public comment, though, we'll hear from Department of City Planning.
Good afternoon, council members. Andrew Pennington with the Department of City Planning. I can give a quick overview of the ordinance. This is a citywide code amendment in response to a motion introduced last year. The proposed ordinance builds on existing provisions in the municipal code, which details various temporary regulations available during a declared local emergency. The proposed amendment aims to respond to the current public health and economic crisis, but can also be used during future local emergencies if the relief is relevant to the impacts of any future crisis. The regulatory relief provided is enacted in two steps. First, by the mayor or city council when a local emergency is declared, and then and only then could the mayor, by executive order, or the council by resolution, enable this set of regulatory relief. The provisions in question are related to time limits that are imposed by the municipal code and to automobile parking requirements. I can go into more depth after public comment or if the members have questions.
All right, we'll see if public comment produces some questions for you, but for now, thank you, Mr. Pennington. Now we'll go to public comment on item number 12. Are there callers on the queue?
Yes, there are. Caller with the number ending in 0976. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
Hi, how are y'all doing? My name is Josiah Sitton, and I represent Malise Restaurant, a 2 Michelin star restaurant, also Charcoal Venice. I represent Charcoal Venice, Dear John's in Culver City, and Open Air at the Lion Hotel. And I'm calling to voice my support for the proposed ordinance that would provide relief to small businesses. The restaurant industry has been decimated by COVID-19. The number of jobs expected to evaporate from our industry is astronomical. So I think it's important that we must include more specific language in this ordinance that will ensure patios will not trigger additional parking requirements. We need support from our local laws and policies that accommodate outdoor dining culture post-COVID. Parking has always been a major hurdle for restaurants. It's always very difficult, and I never quite understood why we need more parking for people to drive and get drunk. Anyway, adding months of rent to pile up with it, anyway, we always have to pay so much rent to go through get all the licenses and everything with the parking and find the parking or lease a lot. So it's just important so that we can kind of change this and make it easier. The emergency parking ordinance will pave the way for a long-term alfresco program and enable restaurants to rebound from the impacts of COVID-19 by relaxing the current parking requirements. So also bringing something to Los Angeles that we don't have a lot of outdoor dining, and being a restaurant tour who brings a lot of tourists to the city, I think it's important to give that when you come to such a beautiful city like Los Angeles. So those are my words for y'all. It's really important that we make this easier and possible so that the restaurants can survive and we continue to employ people and make it a way, because the restaurants are a bridgeway for a social, they're a place where people get jobs out of school, out of jail. It's just a good place for people, so we need to make it easier for these restaurants to survive.
Thank you. I think that's the time.
Support. There you go.
Caller with the number ending in 5283. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
Good afternoon, members of the committee and planning staff, etc. My name is Mott Smith, and I am a small business commissioner for the city of Los Angeles, but I'm calling in today as a private citizen. I just want to congratulate the planning department and the city for this essential move to provide relief to an industry that is worth hundreds of thousands of jobs in Los Angeles. I think the ordinance is a great start. I agree with the previous caller that it needs to be explicit about exempting outdoor dining. I also would like to urge the council to make it clear that off-site parking requirements will not simply be suspended for new applicants, but will also be suspended for existing restaurants that have been required to hire valet companies and lease offsite parking for their operations. Today, I don't know of a single restaurant in the city that has such a requirement that is able to pay its rent. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 7666. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hi. Hello. Good afternoon. My name is Eddie Navarrete. I am Vice President of the Independent Hospitality Coalition, a nonprofit formed post-COVID providing unity, resource, and advocacy for our dear restaurant community. I also would like to commend city staff in putting this ordinance together, Bob Bloomfield's office, who put together 2003-80-1. This emergency ordinance allows restaurants flexibility in remodeling their existing restaurants and the building of new restaurants by removing parking requirements. Parking, which has always been a major hurdle of restaurant development. Further, building and planning departments spend a large amount of time deciphering parking problems. With COVID-impacted budget cuts, this will be helpful to these departments as well. The one flaw with this ordinance is it does not cover patios. Patios have never been more important to restaurants than in a post-COVID reality. Eventually, LA al fresco will go away, and it will be some time before diners feel comfortable inside dining again. Outdoor dining does require additional parking in certain areas, districts, and even on public right-of-way. So if we are going to really make this ordinance effective, we need to include patios. We ask that you simply add in the section E1A a number 6. No new parking will be required for any outdoor areas. Thank you for the time.
Caller with the number ending in 1674. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? Caller with the number ending in 1741. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Good afternoon. My name is Chris.
Caller, can you please press *6 one more time? Sorry.
Hello, this is Chris.
We can hear you.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm calling on behalf of the Building Owners and Managers Association of Greater Los Angeles. My name is Chris, and we want to call in support of Agenda Item 12 and also make several recommendations. Foremost, we'd like to thank the committee for the measure. We believe it is very much indicative of the city's commitment towards supporting thousands of small businesses and their employees. However, we'd also like to build on the measure and suggest 2 important amendments. First, ensure that new patio dining areas do not require additional parking, like the last caller mentioned. And second, that the 5,000 square feet threshold be lifted and that the city use better criteria for small businesses. With small businesses serving as the lifeblood of our economic corridors, it's imperative that the city move to ease the regulatory burden on businesses. In closing, BOMA GLA would like to also thank the city for the important work that you are doing. Moving forward, we hope that this is the beginning of a broader conversation for cutting the red tape to help jumpstart our economic recovery. Thank you so much and have a good day.
Caller with the number ending in 0066. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Yeah, hi. My name is Sam Trude, and I own a number of restaurants in West LA. And I'm calling to voice my support for the proposed emergency ordinance that would provide an immense amount of relief to businesses like mine and other small businesses and small restaurant businesses in LA. However, it's really important, I think, that we include more specific language in this ordinance that ensures that our patios, which have been our lifeline as a part of the alfresco program, don't trigger additional parking requirements. As you can understand, the last 12 months have been very challenging for our industry, and the alfresco program has been an absolute lifeline. There's no way we would be able to survive without it. And I think it's important that we're able to continue to use that, as we come out of this pandemic and into the future in order to recover. And I think having the patios excluded, from the parking requirements
Thank you,
as a part of this
caller.
ordinance.
Caller with the number ending in 2740. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? 2740. Caller with the number ending in 3588. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? 3588. Press *6 to unmute.
Hi there. My name is Carolyn Whitty. I'm the co-founder and CEO of women's healthcare company TIA, calling in to voice my support for the proposed ordinance regarding laxing parking regulations. TIA provides comprehensive primary care, gynecology, and mental health services to women through retail-style clinics that make healthcare more accessible, affordable, and convenient. We're an essential service, yet opening our doors in LA has proved challenging due to parking. For additional context, LA ranks as the #2 city in the country in terms of OBGYN shortages per capita and is amidst a massive primary care and mental health shortage. As a healthcare provider eager to serve the community, our biggest barrier to getting women's health clinics open in LA is parking, which significantly restricts the leases we can sign and the speed at which we can open our doors. This time, we're accelerating our efforts to open in LA to be able to provide the COVID vaccine to women and families, in addition to our core services. Yet, neighborhood health clinics are restricted due to these parking regulations. By approving the ordinance to temporarily lax the parking requirements, inhibiting healthcare clinics like TIA from opening, we can increase access to essential healthcare services at a time of unprecedented need. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 1674. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hello, this is Lisa Sarkin. I'm the first vice president of the Ventura Cahuenga Boulevard Corridor Specific Plan Review Board. We have sent in a motion from December 3rd, and I'm going to read it to you. It is the opinion of the Plan Review Board of the Ventura Cahuenga Boulevard Corridor Specific Plan that the local code amendment project is an ordinance that needs to be re-examined to deal with the impacts that the parking reductions in the commercial areas will have on the surrounding residential neighborhoods. Prior to COVID, board members dealt with constant complaints from their community stakeholders that there is a lack of sufficient parking for businesses along Ventura Boulevard. In all probability, this impact was reduced because of business closings, but this is likely to return in the near future if the thorough evaluation of the parking reductions is not examined by the city. Residents should not have to deal with the lack of on-street parking in their neighborhoods. As for the entire area, we have no parking really anywhere on Ventura Boulevard, and certainly where I am in Studio City, we have even less. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 2740. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hello, this is Margaret Taylor. I'm speaking in support of the agenda item. The relief from parking requirements is absolutely essential for a broad array of business models that do fill these new vacant tenant spaces and allow existing tenant spaces to expand into new vacancies created by the COVID-19 pandemic. These business models have continued to evolve and adapt to COVID-19, and the building code has not been able to keep up with them. This temporary measure allows us to keep the vibrancy of these commercial corridors that are critical to the neighborhood vibrancy in the city of Los Angeles. I appreciate you taking this item up and passing it. Thank you.
That exhausts our speakers.
With that, we'll go to discussion with members. I believe we have a representative of Council District 11 who wants to put forward comments on this item.
Hi, good afternoon, Councilmember Harris-Dawson, honorable committee members. Can you hear me? I've been having audio issues. Thank you. Jason Douglas, Senior Planning Deputy for Council District 11. The council member wishes to express his support of the motion and would like to propose an amendment to extend relief to existing buildings that may lack a valid certificate of occupancy, a temporary certificate of occupancy, or building permit during the local emergency period. As is the case with our older building stock in many historic areas across the city, intergenerational legacy businesses and well-established commercial uses possess a complicated and often incomplete permit history with the city. This often leads to situations where simple tenant improvements become a costly endeavor to acquire permits and entitlements to align with today's municipal code. So the council member wishes to propose an amendment to this motion to include an emergency building amnesty program to not only assist small businesses in recovering from the pandemic, but also to protect the welfare by encouraging property owners to ensure that past construction meets life safety standards. And the language that the council member would like to propose for your consideration today is to direct Department of City Planning with assistance from the Department of Building and Safety to report back on an emergency building amnesty program to allow small businesses with unpermitted construction or unpermitted commercial occupancies to apply for building permits for existing buildings, additions, and remodels. The program should include financial incentives that waive or reduce investigative fees, fines, penalties, and other related permitting costs. The program should allow for the approval of projects utilizing the building and zoning code in effect at the time of construction, with exemption from certain fire and life safety provisions. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much, and thank you to Council District 11. Do we have questions or comments from any other members of the committee?
Move the item, Mr. Chair.
All right, the item's been moved. Mr. Blumenfeld.
Yeah, I have a number of questions and comments as well. And as the maker of this motion, it's been a year, almost a year since I put this forward. And I just think it is critical that we do this. I wish we had this in place when this disaster hit so we could have made some of these changes by resolution. We need to do it now. And for this crisis, but also for future crises. And this pandemic has had such a severe impact on our Main Street local businesses. This ordinance is aimed to provide short-term relief to those businesses to help them survive. Extending discretionary approvals will allow businesses to defer significant expenses. The overwhelming majority of these renewals are approved without any objections or concerns. And these businesses, the ones that are creating problems, we have other tools. Many of our neighborhood commercial districts along some of the city's most iconic streets have older, pedestrian-oriented buildings without on-site parking that meets current parking requirements, especially for uses like restaurants that have been especially hard hit. This ordinance tackles that issue. For the critics who called in about their concerns, I just want to urge them to remember that this is temporary. It's temporary to help businesses and workers survive. When we get past this pandemic, we want a Ventura Boulevard that actually still has thriving businesses. I have a number of questions, and they may lead to some amendments, but I'll try to go through them quickly. It's basically 4 different areas. But first, I want to clarify, one of the callers was concerned about whether this applies to both existing and new businesses. It's my understanding that there is no differentiation. This applies to both. That's how I read this, but if you could just clarify that to make that caller more comfortable, and then I'll move on to the other questions.
Andrew Pennington with Department of City Planning. Yes, it would apply to both existing and new businesses. I think in one area where there's a provision that allows for a reduction in parking requirements for changes of use, that would typically only apply to something that is changing use, so a newer business, although it could apply to an existing business that's expanding. But all of the remaining provisions are applicable to both new and existing businesses.
Great. So a couple areas I wanted to quickly go through. The patio outdoor dining issue. There's some folks have urged that this ordinance include a provision that would allow the creation or expansion of covered or uncovered outdoor dining areas, either on site or on the adjacent sidewalks, without triggering additional parking requirements. I agree with them. Do we need an ordinance to do this, or could this be accomplished through some sort of administrative action like a ZAI?
You would need some type of ordinance to address this issue. this ordinance creates a mechanism where you could do it through this process if you wanted to amend it. But you would need some kind of action, some kind of council action.
Now, I would love to do that action. If we amend the ordinance to include such a provision, would that require going back to Planning Commission, or is that within our authority?
It would not necessarily require it to go back to the City Planning Commission. It could require a higher vote count because for council to approve, mainly because we might have to disapprove the ordinance because commission didn't see all of the details related to this. But ultimately, it would not necessarily need to go back to our commission.
Great. Well, so then, Mr. Chair, as one of my amendments, I'm going to ask that we move to amend the ordinance to allow the creation or expansion of outdoor dining areas on site or an adjacent public right-of-way without triggering additional parking requirements, since that does not send it back. So that'll be one amendment. Wanted to move to another area which deals with the suspension of the parking conditions of approval. As it's currently written, the ordinance allows council to suspend conditions to provide off-site parking if A, that parking is above code, and B, if the condition was imposed under specific types of decisions. Folks have suggested that the ordinance be expanded to include all requirements to provide off-site parking, even code-required parking and conditions imposed through these variants. So, keeping in mind the recent changes to CEQA, can we expand the emergency ordinance to include code-required parking and both code-required parking and suspend the conditions imposed by the variants of other provisions without sending this matter back to Planning Commission?
Andrew Pennington with Department of City Planning. You would be able to expand it in that way. The commission did hear about the ordinance in a full enough capacity to be able to bring it forward and not have the ordinance go back if that amendment was made. I think there has been some pause within our department about how to craft that provision, mainly because there are requirements when you do offsite parking related to acquiring a covenant on that property and on those parking spots. We would be suspending enforcement of those covenants, but at the same time, we would not be removing those covenants from those properties. So basically, we're giving more flexibility to the property owner by suspending the enforcement of those covenants, but ultimately, that's a business decision that the property owner or the business owner and the property owner of the parking spots will have to come to, because those covenants will still remain in place, even though they are suspended for a temporary period of time.
Right. I mean, I totally agree. I mean, parking demand has plummeted, and if they need to provide valet or off-site parking to get customers, they're going to do so. So with that, since it will not require it to go back to Planning Commission, I'm going to make a second amendment, which is to amend the emergency ordinance to authorize suspensions of all requirements to provide off-site parking.
And one point of clarification, council member.
Yeah.
We, as a department, we do not oversee the public right-of-way. For your first amendment, when you were talking about allowing for outdoor dining space and not triggering parking requirements, if the outdoor dining space is on the public right-of-way, that typically does not trigger a additional parking requirement. Usually it has to be on private property, which would be our domain. I think it doesn't necessarily change the direction that you're going in. I think I just wanted to make sure that we were clear that when it comes to the public right-of-way, that is not something that we usually require parking for.
Great. Thank you. So that'll be amendment number 2. And then the third area I wanted to clarify was the 5,000 square foot change of use. As it's written, the ordinance creates a sort of bright line distinction between spaces under 5,000 square feet and over 5,000 square feet. And I understand that we want to have some limits, but it seems that to be consistent with the intent, the way we should go about it is to exempt the first 5,000 square feet of tenant space from the requirement to provide additional parking when there's a change of use. If there's a business that's 5,025 feet, square feet, they shouldn't be automatically kicked out just because they're slightly over. But but to kind of make it marginal. So the first 5,000 for any business, you get that. I'm assuming we can do that and that it would not go back to Planning Commission, but I want to be very careful. Everything I suggest, the last thing I want to do is slow this down. So could you clarify that that also would not go back to Planning Commission?
Andrew Pennington with Department of City Planning again. I do not believe that that would require us to go back to our City Planning Commission. I think that is more of a detail and an implementation question. I think we could definitely clarify that language. I don't think it would create any issues for us with our commission or with our environmental documentation.
Great. So then I'd also like to propose that as a clarifying amendment to make it clear that the ordinance that the intent is to deal with the first 5,000 square feet of tenant improvement, not a bright line between 5,000 and not 5,000. And then lastly, the implementing resolution. I want to just request that when the ordinance comes back for form and legality, that planning and the city attorney present a draft along with the ordinance to present a draft resolution to implement each of the items in the ordinance for 12 months. So I don't want to have any extra lag time where we have to then go back and request a resolution. I want to make that a formal request here that we have an implementing resolution brought back along with the ordinance as my fifth amendment. And then, lastly on what CD11 proposed, I'm assuming that as a report back does not require us to go back to Planning Commission, but I just want to clarify that too, because I'm okay with it as long as it doesn't slow us down.
Yeah, based off the language that Council District 11 read into the record, it is a report back. It would not require us to go to commission at this point. When the report back comes back and based off further direction, we might have to go back to our commission to present the details and the specifics of the program, but that will, in essence, create a new separate work program from this, and they can move on separate tracks.
And Councilmember Kevin Keller, City Planning, just to reiterate, we appreciate the motion. It does raise some new topics dealing with building and safety and code, so that would likely be a report back that would probably take on its own path, but we can certainly report back and spell that out. So we're happy to do that.
Great. So, Mr. Chair, thank you. That's it for my questions, but I do want to make sure I introduce those four amendments that I outlined as part of this, or that we include those.
All right. Any other questions or comments from members? The item has been moved by Ridley Thomas, seconded by Mr. Blumenfield. As amendment, it has, I will note, a first, second, third, fourth, and fifth amendment to this item. If there's no further discussion, Mr. Mejia, can you call the roll? We cannot...
Councilmember Harris Dawson as chair.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
As amended, aye. Blumenfield, aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas.
As amended, aye.
Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
And it carries, Mr. Chair, as amended with the amendments proposed by Mr. Blumenfield, CD 11, and all other amendments stated for the record.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mejia. That takes us to item number 13.
Item 13, committee members. This is a report from the Cultural Heritage Commission relative to the inclusion of the Mckee General Contractor Branch Office located in CD 13 as a historic cultural monument.
All right, so for item number 13, if you are on the line and wish to have public comment on this item, now is the time to press star 9. Before we go to public comment, we'll hear from a representative of Department of City Planning.
Good afternoon, Ken Bernstein with LA City Planning, Office of Historic Resources. Before you is the Historic Cultural Monument nomination for the Mckee General Contractor Branch Office. This is 2 commercial buildings located in North San Fernando Road in Northeast Los Angeles. The Cultural Heritage Commission recommendation is that the property met one of the Historic Cultural Monument criteria for its association with the Robert E. Mckee General Contractor Incorporated, a national construction firm that contributed greatly to the development of Los Angeles, including playing an important role in the development of Los Angeles Union Station and the LAX theme building. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right. Are there any callers on the queue for this item? Thank you, Mr. Bernstein.
There are no callers on the queue for this item.
As there are no callers on the queue for this item, I want to hear from Council District 13. I believe Mr. Bullock is on the line.
Good afternoon. My name is Craig Bullock, and I'm with Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell's office. I'm here to convey the Councilmember's support for the Cultural Heritage Commission's recommendation to designate the Mckee Construction Branch Office as a historic cultural monument. The motion was introduced by the Councilmember to initiate its nomination after the building was threatened with demolition. We are very pleased that we've been working with Goodman, who is the property owner, who owns this nearly 37-acre site. The site is a sea of concrete and empty warehouses that's being transformed into sustainable and aesthetic improvements within its site, which will result in the planting of over 469 trees, 3,000 shrubs, and additional environmentally friendly additions as cool roofs, LED lights, and energy-efficient HVAC system. We now have the opportunity to include a historic preservation element into this project. Given the size of the site, the Council Office is asking that the area shown in Exhibit A of the support letter that we submitted, that the HCM be limited to the area outlined in red should this committee recommend a HCM status for this. I'd like to thank the Goodman development team. This council-initiated nominations are never easy, but they've been very cooperative, and we appreciate our ongoing dialogue and welcome them as a stakeholder in Council District 13. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bullock, Representative of Council District 13. If there's no further question, we'll move the item if there's a second.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Cedillo. Mr. Mejia, can you call the roll?
Yes, Councilmember Harris Dawson as chair.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
Unanimous, and it carries. And as noted by the deputy from CD 13, he has transmitted a communication that denotes the area in red that will be designated as such.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Mejia. That takes us to item number 14.
Item 14, committee members, is a report from the City Planning Department relative to the Sustainable Communities Project exemption, the environmental clearance for a 100% affordable housing project with 128 restricted affordable units, 1 market rate manager's unit. Project is located in CD1.
Excellent. We will hear from Department of City Planning on this matter. Now is the time to press star 9 if you want to speak. If you're a member of the public and you want to speak on this item, but first we'll hear from a representative of Department of City Planning, followed by an applicant and perhaps an appellant.
Thank you very much, council members. My name is Jim Harris with City Planning. Before you is a statutory exemption from CEQA under Senate Bill 375, the Sustainable Communities Project, or SCIPPY, for a 100% affordable senior housing project located at 1216 to 1224 South Menlo Avenue in the Wilshire Community Plan Area, Council District 1. The item before you today is only for the SCIPPY as an environmental clearance. No action is to be taken on the related director's level case for the proposed project. The director issued a determination on January 7th, 2021, approving the project with conditions. No appeals were filed on the determination and no public inquiries have been received. The Skippy was reviewed pursuant to the provisions of Public Resource Codes 21155 and qualifies as a transit priority project that meets all requirements to be eligible for a full CEQA exemption. Staff recommends the project be determined statutorily exempt from CEQA as a sustainable communities project. There is a project representative available should you have any questions, and this concludes my presentations. Thank you.
All right, we'll note that the applicant does have a representative available to members should they have questions or comments, but I'll stop here to ask if there are any members of the public wishing to speak on this item.
There are no callers wishing to speak on this item.
All right, hearing no callers on the item, are any questions or comments from members? Hearing none, I'll move the item. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Cedillo. Mr. Mejia, can you call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Harris Dawson as chair.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
That's unanimous and it carries, Mr. Chair.
All right, that takes us to, thank you, Mr. Mejia. That takes us to item number 15.
Item 15, Mr. Chairman, is a communication from the Planning Commission. It includes 2 appeals relative to the environmental clearance and the various land use entitlements for the project. It's a mixed-use project with 39 dwelling units. 4 of the units are being proposed for very low-income households. The project is located in CD 11.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Mejia. Now is the time to press star 9 if you are a member of the public and you wish to speak on this item. But first we will hear from the Department of City Planning, followed by an appellant and an applicant, and hopefully our council office. Department of City Planning.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of PLUM. My name is Nick Vasathaswat with the Department of City Planning. This item is being brought back before you due to noticing and technical audio issues that arose at the previous meeting back on December 8th of last year. Today I will be giving a brief summary of the CPC action, the appeal points raised, and the previous action made by PLUM. The City Planning Commission approved this previously stated entitlement for a 5-story mixed-use development consisting of 39 units, 4 set aside for very low-income housing, and 2,900 square feet of commercial retail. The CPC also adopted a mitigated negative declaration and a mitigation monitoring program as the environmental clearance for the project. There was 1 appeal filed for this case, and the project's environmental clearance with 6 main points of contention summarized as follows. 1, lack of compliance with community plan and specific plan. 2, lack of compliance with the Coastal Act. 3, insufficiency of the MND. 4, inadequacy of the DCP recommendation report. 5, insufficiency of the density bonus findings. And 6, insufficiency of the mitigation measures. Planning staff submitted a letter dated December 3rd, 2020, outlining the appeal points and staff responses. In summary, the appellant has not provided substantial evidence to support their appeal. Since the appeal cannot be substantiated, staff therefore recommends that the PLUM Committee and City Council deny the appeal and sustain the determination of the City Planning Commission to approve the requested action for the proposed project, including the 4 additional moderate income units as previously volunteered by the applicant at the last PLUM meeting. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for questions. Thank you.
All right, now we'll hear from our appellant.
Tom Donovan, can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself? Thomas Donovan.
Hello, this is Tom Donovan. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Thank you. I represent the Edgewater Towers Condominium Homeowners Association. That's 148 units. It was built in 1963. I also represent the Pacific Palisades Residents Association, which has 3,000 homes. As you know, every community organization in the Palisades opposes this project. I spoke at the Plum hearing on December 8th, and this committee summarily denied our appeal, pretty much without any discussion, so I won't waste time going over in detail the arguments that you've already rejected. But I do want to emphasize an aspect. The rooftop recreation area should be eliminated, or some mitigation should be required. The city has been notified of concerns regarding the rooftop noise from the project, yet has refused to address this issue or condition it appropriately. Planning says there is no evidence that noise from the rooftop decks will result in an adverse impact, but the building hasn't even been constructed, so we can't show that. The city routinely imposes noise conditions for decks and outside activity before a project is constructed to prevent misuse that harms the neighbors. So why not here? At the very least, you can ask planning if noise conditions can be imposed. If you're going to completely override the community's wishes, you could at least throw the community a small bone. If rooftop decks are to be allowed, which are right below the Edgewater homes, then the following conditions should be imposed. No live or amplified music on the rooftop decks. No large parties or events with 10 or more persons. The hours of use limited to 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Move the utility equipment from the rear of the project and away from the Edgewater homes and add sound screening. Coat the parapet wall on the rooftop decks with sound reduction material. Shield and downcast all lighting in the rooftop decks to prevent light pollution. And finally, place permanent planters with mature trees on the rear portion of all the rooftop decks. There is no prejudice to the applicant, who I believe denies that the rooftop will be used for parties and late night activities. So there's no reason why the city can't impose these conditions. There are also potential geological issues and risks regarding the slope stability. We've submitted a report dated July 13, 2020 from NGO. This is a public safety issue. Further slope stability and soil conditions analysis is needed. The applicant's geological findings are based on borings that are over 50 years old, and planning's December 3, 2020 summary of the appeal failed to address this. Planning did not even list the geologic objections, and they completely failed to address them. Additionally, I just want to say that this committee does not have to rubber stamp the approval of the CDP on this. This project is incompatible in scale and character with the neighborhood and thereby violates the specific in-community plans. The project's size, height, bulk, mass, scale, and other significant features are incompatible with the scale and character of the adjacent neighborhood, and they will adversely. Pardon me?
You've exhausted your 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Michael Gonzalez, can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself?
Good morning, good afternoon, council members. Michael Gonzalez representing the applicant. Thank you for your time once again as we relive December 8th of 2020 due to audio errors that evidently were potential Brown Act violations. The appellants have had multiple public hearings by my count, at which they have raised the same issues over and over, have not provided any evidence in support of those issues, or any evidence that was provided was refuted by expert testimony and expert documents in the record before you. This project will provide 4 very low income units on a jack-in-the-box site that has been vacant for some time. It is a car-centric use in a location that does not need that kind of a use. In addition to the very low income units, the applicant has agreed to provide 4 moderate income units. 20% of this project will be affordable. That's a big drop in the bucket in this community. It is a big step forward in providing much needed housing, both at the market rate level and at the affordable level. And keep in mind, these will be 55-year covenanted affordable units. In terms of the applicant's contention that the project is not consistent with the Coastal Act, it completely is. The Edgewater towers behind us range from 5 to 8 stories in height. There are 4- and 5-story buildings across Sunset Boulevard.
The applicant made revisions to the project in response to the Palisades Design Review Board and stepped the project's upper stories back to better resemble buildings across the street from this site. So we have listened, we have made the changes. I think what the appellants would like us to do is to surrender and build nothing, which is what we cannot do. We are doing our part to solve this housing crisis with a project that is completely consistent with the Coastal Act. Moreover, the state mandate is now to harmonize the density bonus with the Coastal Act. And this project is a clear example of that harmony. I don't want to take up more of your time, and I urge this committee to once again unanimously support this project. Thank you.
All right, we'll go to public comment on this item now. I see that there are 8 folks who've raised their hand for public comment, so we will allot 11 minutes for public comment on this item. Thank you. We can start now.
Caller with the number ending in 0149. Can you please press *6 to unmute?
Hello?
We can hear you.
Hi, I just wanted to say I'm for the project, and I want to live closer to the beach and be able to walk and go bike riding by the beach. And, you know, me and my wife just got married, and I'm an insurance agent, and I would love to work from my apartment or a condo by the beach. I don't see why you guys would deny this project. All it's going to do is bring more housing for low-income people and people that have no place to live. So I'm definitely for this project.
Caller with the number ending in 2854. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? 2854.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Jay. I live in the Palisades. I'm a resident. The developer has no mixed-use experience. The developer says no block views. That's not true. The developer says no protected species. That's not true. The developers refuse to acknowledge the seismic issues on the property next door. And when the retrofitting comes with the city, all these decisions to go ahead and build this 5-story structure will come into play. This would be the only building on Sunset Boulevard in the Palisades on the street without a setback. The buildings across the street, the buildings on Edgewater Towers are way up on the hill. They're not on Sunset. The developer has claimed that there are no low-income housing units in the neighborhood. There are at least 50 within a football field of their location. There are over 200 between the ocean and town. I would ask the committee to ask our councilman what's his opinion on this, and I would ask you to do your homework, not just rubber stamp this for the umpteenth time. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 0191. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? (0191). Please press *6 to unmute.
This is Kate Church. I'm speaking in support of this location. The opposition to this project based on its size is elitist per se. The Edgewater located directly behind is far and away a larger development. Their attempt to block this project based on its size reminds me of the schoolyard bully who grabs all the marbles and leaves none for everyone else. I feel this project is a good fit for the neighborhood. Limiting the number of units per acre results in a higher housing cost. The restricted covenant guarantees that only the very rich will be able to afford to live in this area. It would also result in the inability to offer the low and moderate income units. Multi-purpose units are the wave of the future. Combining the ability to shop locally while enjoying the short walk to the beach is the dream of many, including myself. I'd love to be able to take a place here. This development will provide both jobs and housing for all income levels, both of which are needed in the Palisades. I urge you to allow this development to go forward as planned. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 7024. Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Hello.
Hi, we can hear you.
Hi, thank you. My name is Aaron Cohen. I'm a lifetime resident of actually the Palisades. I grew up in the Highlands, which is just a rock throw away from where this project is set to be developed. I wanted to talk in support of this project. Growing up in the Palisades, there was always a shortage of homes. And I want to remind those people that live at the Edgemont towers above, in 1962, what if there was a group that was opposing their project? Really, people like us, new young families that want to live in the Palisades neighborhood, cannot find a new residence. In addition, the developers are giving us some low-income housing, which will help us get into the housing market there, where it is very unaffordable today. So I urge the council to approve this project so new families like mine could come to a neighborhood that they grew up in and they are so familiar with. So thank you very much for your time. Have a great day.
Caller with the number ending in 5765. Can you please press *6 to unmute?
Yes. I'm Carol Brook, a member of the Pacific Palisades Residents Association, PPRA, with 3 points. First, please correct the record. The Palisades was accused of having no affordable housing. In fact, we know of roughly 200 units, 100 of which PPRA secured for senior housing 4 decades ago. Second, development should not and does not trump either our general and specific plans or the California Coastal Act, which protects the scale and ambience along our coast. Yet this project violates them all. Third, the serious safety concerns of our community council and every other community group that has taken a public stand on this project are compelling and merit your respect. Please join us in supporting only sound planning and development by rejecting this misconceived proposal. There is no bicycle safe along that portion of ECH, and almost no one other than an athlete can make it up Sunset Boulevard. These are specious things. Families won't fit in these small units. This is all a fantasy. Thank you for your time.
Caller with the number ending in 9595. Hello? Can you please press *6 to unmute yourself? *9595. Please press *6 to unmute.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Hi. I'm in support of item number 15. I believe that this project will bring jobs to the community. It will also provide housing options for the middle-class Americans that would like to live near the beach. I think it's a great project to provide affordable housing. The community will benefit from the new project as it will bring options for housing for the community members, perhaps even bringing new members to the community as it will provide more housing in the area that's in high demand. Furthermore, I would personally would like to live near the beach for a family. It's every week. It's an every weekend trip during the summer. Having affordable housing near the beach would be just a brilliant idea. Thank you for your time.
Caller with the number ending in 5889. Can you please press *6 to unmute? 5889. Please press star 6 to unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, hi, my name is Sean Ash. I work in the area and I've been looking for a unit by the beach for a while now. It's been very hard to find somewhere, and this development would really, having a unit here would be just ideal. I would love to live in this building and future buildings, by this area. We need more of. So I'm definitely support this development, and I really hope it goes through because I would love to live here.
Caller with the number ending in 9555. Can you please press star 6 to unmute? (9555). Please press star 6 to unmute.
Hello.
We can hear you.
Okay. Hello, my name is Richard. And as a person who's living in the adjacent vicinity, the Santa Monica area, and being an African American looking for some affordable living, I am looking forward to this project coming to fruition. It will provide us with some nice beach living, with good front area, and possibly low income allowances, or so that others can afford to be able to live in the beachfront area. With that in mind, also I hear that the project is also proposing some retail shops and things, which should provide a community living, which would allow us to enjoy the beachfront. So as I would consider myself a minority. I really would like this project to come up, and I'll be one of the first ones in line to hopefully get a house there. Thank you.
Caller with the number ending in 9311. Can you please press star 6 to unmute yourself? 9311. Please press star 6 to unmute.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Hi, my name is Jake. I called last time in support of this project. I just want to speak on behalf of myself and all my friends that are currently always surfing in the area, that we would really appreciate a project like this to come up right here on PCH to give us surfers the opportunity to be able to live near the water, to bike near the water, and to be close to the water, which is what we love. So I wanted to speak in support. Thank you.
Thank you. This concludes our speakers list.
Thank you for members of the public who called in on this item. If there's no discussion, Mr. Mckee, I'm going to move denial. If you could read the instructions into the record.
Second.
I will read the instructions. Deny the appeals filed by Edgewater Towers Condominium, HOA Association, and Pacific Palisades Residents Association, and thereby sustain the determination of the Planning Commission to adopt the environmental clearance, the MND, and the mitigation monitoring program prepared for the MND, and approval of a design review determination, a project permit compliance, a coastal development permit, a Mellow Act compliance review for the proposed mixed-use project for the property located at 17346 West Sunset Boulevard, and in addition include the voluntary conditions by the applicant to increase the number of affordable housing units. On the agenda, it was noted as a total of 39 dwelling units, 4 units for very low income, and the discussion, there was a mention of 4 additional moderate income units.
Excellent. Thank you. It's been moved and seconded by Mr. Cedillo. Mr. Mejia, can you call the roll?
Yes. Councilmember Harris Dawson as chairman.
Yes. Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
And unanimous, Mr. Chair, carries.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Mejia. That takes us to our final item, item number 9.
Yes, item number 9, committee members, this is a motion by Councilmember Koretz, seconded by Councilmember Harris Dawson. It's instructing city planning, along with building and safety, housing, CAO, to present an ordinance that updates the adaptive reuse ordinance to allow by right conversions beyond the 6 specific plan areas that are currently allowed in the city.
And if I
Move
may,
the item.
Mr. Chair, I would like to state into the record that a community impact statement has been submitted by the Mid-City West Community Council in support of the matter.
All right. That was the city clerk saying that we have a community impact statement that's been submitted. We have no speakers on the queue for this item, item number 9. Can we confirm that there are no speakers on the queue for item number 9?
There are currently no speakers. No one's raised their hand.
Excellent. All right. If we could have a report from Department of City Planning.
Yes,
this item.
once again, Ken Bernstein with the Office of Historic Resources and Urban Design Studio. I'm joined by our Deputy Director, Arthi Varma. We are very pleased to be able to move forward with this motion from Councilmember Koretz addressing streamlining the process for adaptive reuse conversions as a source of housing supply and affordable housing. We look forward to working with the Council Office and the committee to advance this in partnership with the Department of Building and Safety, as well as HCID, our Housing and Community Investment Department. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Bernstein. In an effort to streamline this matter, we'll move the question and ask for a second after we've heard from Mr. Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just, I have a large part of my district that's designated M zone, where I'm trying to encourage economic development. I just ask the planning department that when moving forward with this policy that you take into account the importance of preserving certain industrial zones. I know that this might work in certain council districts, but I don't want this to hamper my ability to of what we're trying to do here in Council District 12 to bring companies here to provide good paying jobs, good middle class paying jobs. We all know that once any property that is designated M zone moves into any other designation for residential, it never goes back. And while I recognize the importance of, that we need more housing in the city, it's also very important that we provide good jobs. So just asking that the planning department work closely with my office to make sure that, that we craft something that won't affect my ability to get these companies to come to our industrial corridor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I believe we have a representative from Council District 5 on this item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Daniel Skolnick. I'm Senior Planning Deputy to Councilmember Paul Koretz. This motion is about creating options for distressed or economically obsolete commercial buildings while creating affordable, moderate income housing without displacement. According to JLL, Los Angeles Office Insight Report, Q4 2020, the vacancy rates for commercial buildings rose to 16.3%. Concessions are also increasing, and net absorption of inventory is down. And also, according to our 2019 annual Element Progress Report, the moderate income unit represents our city's largest gap in affordable housing production when compared to RENA goals. We have approximately 12,680 more to go. So one potential part of the solution is this motion to expand adaptive reuse by allowing eligible conversions to residential use by right beyond the 6 specific plan incentives areas, assuming that we have the criteria met. To be clear, this is simply an incentive. A zoning administrator's determination is still a possibility for buildings that need a more tailored approach to adaptive reuse. And one can simply go to our counters and apply. Lastly, to Mr. Lee's concern regarding industrial land use preservation, this motion is not looking to convert industrial buildings. It is aimed at buildings that are in zones from R5 through the C zones where mixed-use development is already permitted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Skolnick. If there's no further discussion, Mr. Mejia, I'll move adoption.
Second.
Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Cedillo. Mr. Mejia, can you call the roll?
Yes, the motion being adopted along with Mr. Lee's concern to the planning department about industrial uses in CD12. The roll call is Councilmember Marquise Harris Dawson as chair.
Yes.
Councilmember Gilbert Cedillo.
Yes.
Councilmember Bob Blumenfield.
Blumenfield, aye.
Councilmember Mark Ridley Thomas.
Aye.
Councilmember John Lee.
Aye.
That's unanimous and it carries, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Mr. Mejia, can you confirm that concludes our business for today's meeting?
That concludes the agenda, Mr. Chairman. And
One
committee.
call. We have a speaker wishing to speak on item 3 or the continuance of it. Appellant Aurora Corona.
Ms. Corsani?
Councilmember, I suggest you recall the item to hear the comment on the continuance, and if it changes the analysis, you can rescind and revote. And if it doesn't, you can just let the vote stand.
All right, we will take such an action as recommended by the city attorney. Let's hear from the caller.
Aurora Corona, can you please press *6 to unmute yourself?
Good afternoon, honorable council members. As you know, my name is Aurora Corona. I am an appellant for item number 3, but I would like to just make a comment about the continuance. I and others are glad that it has been postponed. However, the applicant spent 1.5 years in preparation for the project, and the community was only given 1.5 months notice to respond before the project was approved. In all fairness, the continuance should be longer for further evaluation, and so that our councilman, Mr. Gil Cedillo, can come and speak to the residents and business owners that live within the 500-foot radius of the Pico Union intersection to find out exactly how they feel about the city allowing 1,500 students in 2 buildings across the street from each other onto one of the most densely populated areas in Los Angeles. That is my comment. Thank you very much for your time. I know you're tired and want to go home, and have a good afternoon.
Thank you so much for your comment. You'll note that this item has been continued to the 16th of March. We'll hold to that date. Should there be a compelling reason to go forward, we can address that at that time. So we thank you for your comment and look forward to seeing everyone at the next Planning and Land Use Management Committee meeting. Thank you. We're adjourned.